Proposition: all flame-resistant apparel is created equal. After all, these garments certainly look the same, don't they? But looks can be deceiving, and I'm here to explain why. With all the choices out there today, I can certainly respect the challenge of developing a flame-resistant, or FR, program. First and foremost, you're buying FR because you want to protect your workers. But because FR is an expensive investment for your company, you have to be concerned about price and value as well. In the past 5 years alone, there's been an abundance of new flame-resistant fabrics entering the U.S. market. This is real change because for many years it was primarily Endura or Nomex. But with much of the traditional fashion apparel industry moving outside of the U.S. and the FR market growing due to new standards and legislation, many domestic textile manufacturers are jumping into the FR market. And they're doing so with varying levels of expertise and investment. For example, did you know that a non-FR fabric manufacturer can convert existing equipment to create flame-resistant fabric? The truth is, you can get into this market pretty inexpensively. Or you can invest a lot of time and capital. It seems that new suppliers pop up every day from various locations around the world. That's because the protective fabric market is pretty attractive compared to traditional textiles. Regular cotton and polycotton fabrics sell for much less per yard than does most FR fabric. The same goes for FR apparel manufacturing. I mean, if you can cut and sew a regular garment, why not a flame-resistant garment? But there's actually a lot more to it than that. In the next few minutes, you'll discover some factors to consider when deciding what flame-resistant clothing you'll trust for your employees. Although this presentation is brought to you by two companies well known in the FR arena, there will be no product promotion or selling here today. If you walk away with some helpful insights for evaluating your options, then I'll have met my goal. Flame-resistant clothing is all about finding products that offer the best balance of protection, comfort, and value. The safety of your employees is the most important factor, so the number one consideration is protection. There are various key elements of protection, starting with FR durability. What protection level does the fabric provide, and can you trust it to deliver that same protection over time and after many launderings? Consistency. Will the next garment you buy from that supplier possess the same quality as the last garment you bought? Will it deliver the same FR performance? Does the FR experience of your suppliers give you confidence, both at the fabric and garment manufacturing level? Can they track every garment back to the original roll of fabric from which it was made? Do the garment and fabric suppliers follow an ongoing testing protocol? Are the garments constructed of only flame-resistant components like zipper tape and thread? And is there no exposed metal next to the skin? Do you trust them? Do they disclose the fabric manufacturer? Do you know where the fabric or garment was produced? And will they be there tomorrow if you ever have any issues? When it comes to protection level, I'm going to propose something to you that might seem a little counterintuitive. It's the concept that simply meeting the requirements of a given standard may not be enough to ensure the safety of your employees. Many of you are, or will be, providing your employees with flame-resistant clothing to comply with your particular industry's standards. If you have flash fire hazards, the standard you're likely to comply with is NFPA 2112. If you're a utility, you'll be interested in the National Electrical Safety Code, or NESC, to protect against electric arc flashes. And many of you may work for companies falling under NFPA 70E, which applies to the largest group of industrial employees facing arc flash exposure. These standards have key tests or metrics that the flame-resistant apparel must meet. For NFPA 2112, it's the flash fire mannequin and vertical flame tests. For electric arc flash hazards, it's your determined level of arc thermal performance value, or ARC rating. I honestly don't believe there are any legitimate FR products being sold in the United States today that don't meet the standards for which they were designed. But While these minimum standards are very important to pass, the testing is typically done in a laboratory on just one piece of fabric, and for some standards from just one production lot. So the stated performance of the fabric is the result of being measured at only one point in time, and that's it. But would it pass those same tests after 50 launderings? In fact, today's FR garments like this are lasting well beyond that, as high as 100 launderings or more. So, how can you be confident that they'll protect the employee in the field in year 2 as well as they did on day 1? Or that every garment you purchase will pass the same tests, since some may have only been tested in the initial production lots? I'm suggesting that simply meeting minimum standards may not be enough to ensure consistent, reliable protection in real-world conditions. You should consider a garment that's been constructed for durability and made from fabric designed to withstand harsher conditions than those upon which some standards are based. One such standard many of you might consult is ASTM F1506, which details requirements for FR clothing to protect electrical workers. In fact, NFPA 70E points to this standard. It outlines numerous tests including flammability on both new fabric and after 25 washings, as well as arc rating. This is a solid standard and can provide great information, but real-world conditions are often more rigorous than the testing parameters of F1506. For example, the wash method in F1506 follows a basic home laundering methodology with over-the-counter detergents like Tide and medium wash temperatures of approximately 120 degrees. But what if you use an industrial laundry that runs much higher wash temperatures of 140, 150, or even 165 degrees, and may add harsher chemicals to the wash formula? How will the FR garment perform then? What would be the garment's performance using this standard's tests after 50, 75, and even 100 wash and wear cycles? Would it pass the vertical flame test, or would it fail? Let's just say this is one of the areas of insight I'd like to impart to you today. Because if you base your FR purchase solely on apparel that complies with standards, you will have many choices. But the field gets considerably smaller if you narrow your decision to garments and fabrics that will still protect when exposed to harsher conditions, are produced to minimize shrinkage, and are constructed to hold up over the long haul. But of course, protection is just one part of the equation. If your employees hate what they're wearing, well, let's just say it doesn't have to be that way with today's available fabrics and styling. After protection, comfort is probably the second most important variable to consider in developing your FR program. This can be a very real issue because you need your workers to wear FR clothing every day and wear it properly. And while FR has had somewhat of a reputation for being less comfortable than streetwear, there has been a lot of innovation in both fabrics and garment styling. In fact, the gap is narrower than ever. Now, when it comes to judging comfort, you'll get some folks who will show you tests like wicking and air permeability data. And you can certainly evaluate how a fabric feels to the touch, both before and after laundering. But comfort can't really be predicted in a lab or simply by touch. The best way to really know what will work best under your conditions is to have your employees conduct wear tests. For example, Arizona has dry heat, and a summer in Louisiana will leave you dripping from humidity. Comfort is perceived differently in varying locales, so you'll want to work with garment manufacturers who support wear tests. Another big factor in comfort is how the garments are sized and how they're cut. Some companies cut smaller, while others have a more generous fit. Some garments have features like extra gussets or a pleat like this for ease of movement. Another important issue is pattern grading, or how a manufacturer modifies garment patterns across their entire size range. This can make a real difference for your non-average sized employees. For example, does the manufacturer create a short size by just cutting off the legs of a regular? Or does the manufacturer actually adjust the pattern for the arms and torso to proportionally fit a shorter stature? On that note, it's important to know whether a manufacturer will make sizes to match every employee at your plant, from the tall to the short, or the lean to the not so lean. And will you have to wait 3 months to get that special size? Really, it all comes down to getting the best value for the dollar. And value is considerably more than just the upfront cost of a garment. If you have to replace it early because of shrinkage, your cost per wear on that cheaper garment might be twice the cost of a higher quality garment with excellent shrinkage control built in. With 3% shrinkage, a garment might get a little snug. But at 6% shrinkage, your garment has shrunk from a large to a medium. You'll also want to be aware of fabric strength and performance. The types of data you will likely be presented with include tear strength, tensile strength, and abrasion resistance, just to name a few. You want a balance of performance on all these tests, and you want to make sure you compare apples to apples in areas like fabric weight. Fabrics can definitely set themselves apart in terms of these metrics. For example, here's a chart that includes garments made of FR cotton blend fabric from different manufacturers. It compares the pounds force necessary to create a tear using a device like this. The higher the number, the stronger the fabric. You can see the difference among the various garment samples that were tested. So you can see that similar fabrics can perform differently on these tests. And this is one area of performance to consider, along with the others we have discussed today when evaluating potential garment performance in the field. We've also talked about FR integrity. If a garment doesn't protect after being subjected to conditions harsher than the minimum standards, which is a very real possibility, well, that defeats the whole purpose of providing your employees with protection. And lastly, garment construction is key for a successful flame-resistant apparel program. It might seem on the surface that any garment made from the same fabric is equally durable, but let's look at this one. See how these snaps are reinforced? And there are lots of bar tack reinforcement stitches, like here and here. Plus, the pockets all have double rows of stitching. These types of construction techniques, especially on stress points, can significantly extend the life of a garment. We've all got budget pressures, especially now. And I know purchasing departments typically focus on initial cost. But for protective clothing, there's much more to it than that. Some may say FR apparel has become a commodity, that it's pretty much all the same if it meets the minimum standards. As you've seen today, that's simply not the case. Although there are many lower-priced options, the largest share of the protective clothing market belongs to high-quality, high-performance, flame-resistant products. The reason? Many managers have done their research and selected garments to withstand the real-world conditions their employees face. NFPA 70E cites that more than 2,000 people each year are admitted to burn centers with severe arc flash burns. Be sure your FR apparel is there when you need it. Thank you for your time, and let us know how we can be of support.